To the New York grand jury against his.
Where are we? Oh, wrong camera.
All right, good evening. I'd like to open the April 4th meeting of the Wakefield Conservation Commission. First up, take roll call. Jim.
Here.
Ken.
Here.
Paul.
Here.
Peter.
Here.
Teresa.
Here.
And Haley. I don't see Haley yet. All right, we do have a quorum, so we will start. First up is the approval of the minutes for March 21st. Anybody have any comments, questions?
I move to approve the minutes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Jim,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Peter,
Peter, you're muted.
Who are you waiting for?
Yes.
there it is. Teresa,
Yes,
and I also approve the minutes. All right, I will make an announcement that DEP 313-622-10 Broadway has been postponed. It was due at 8 o'clock, postponed for the applicant request to May 2nd. So if there's anybody here for 10 Broadway, it has been postponed per the applicant's request. And I'll make that announcement again around 8-ish. All right, first up, we do not have a file number yet, but it is 17 Butler Ave. Public hearing notice of intent for renovations on an existing single family to enclose a porch within a buffer to BVW. Is the applicant here? And I do see Haley has joined us also.
Yes, I'm here.
Applicant for 17 Butler?
I'm the contractor and the designer. I believe the homeowner was going to join also.
Yeah, I am here too. Kandaraj Krishna Kumar here.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
Is there a plan you'd like to share and present to us?
I believe that was submitted.
Okay, do you have something, do you want to share directly, or I can look for the email?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not too computer savvy when it comes to that, but
Okay, give me a moment.
Bob, I have the plan up if you want it.
Okay,
7 o'clock right now.
I got it on now.
that's actually the site plan, not the plans. Those are the pictures.
These are all I had.
Yeah, those are all that were attached to the application. And I know we noted that none of the plans show the wetlands or the buffer zone.
all right, yeah, there is a note from Rebecca. The wetlands have not been confirmed by Elaine yet. So it certainly will need to be continued until she can get out there and verify wetlands. Have the wetlands been flagged?
No.
Yeah.
We-
And they're not shown on the plan either, so.
Okay,
I know it's hard to see on that site plan, but I could print out better line weight or show a better line weight to show the wetlands.
Is it on this plan?
So anything that's on the X, not the X, but the arrow, the longest arrow that looks like a fork, that area right there, that shows the references.
all right, so there's no flags on the property itself, though?
No, not right now, no.
Yeah, it's very faint.
So what are you drawing the green? What is the green line?
It looks like Ken's tracing the line.
The 100 foot?
You know, I'm going to tell you, as a minimum, we need to have the resource areas shown on the plan. I mean, that's
Well, for
really,
some reason, another, that PDF file did not show it. If you could even see the ones that I have in person are darker and line weight.
yeah. But they need to be aligned certified by someone that's registered to do that type of stuff. Yeah, are you saying that whole other side of the green line is wetland?
Yes, anything behind that,
Oh, where it says wetland down there in the corner,
yes,
on the bottom,
yes.
yeah.
Ken, can
Um,
you complete-
Am I understanding that you're really not adding anything on, you're staying within the footprint of the house?
Yeah, wherever the existing porch is, was rather, because it fell apart and it would just rotted so bad that the roof
Yeah.
collapsed and damaged the bottom deck.
Yeah,
So we decided to just enclose that, rebuild it with the
Yeah.
with the permit, and then just enclose it and make it part of the living room inside the house.
okay, so when you rebuild it, do you have to do anything to the foundation that was there?
So unfortunately, anytime that you take anything on hand, and it's my responsibility to make sure that it's secure and safe, I'd
Yeah.
rather just do the footings. And the footings in that area will be 4 feet below the frost line.
Yeah,
So
okay,
I'm not going any further than that, and it's gonna stick out about 6 inches above the ground level. And basically, we could just do that just so it'll be more structurally sound.
okay. The point I'm trying to get at is, potentially if you're staying within the footprint of the house, existing house, in my mind, it seems like, we should be able to permit something like that without going through a lot of hassle.
I would appreciate that, because this house is costing a lot of money to maintain in terms of the permittings and the carrying cost of the property. So, and we had other ideas, but things didn't work out the other way. So we just want to enclose that area and make it look pretty and try to finish that inside. We do have permits for the inside, and we're I want to say about 80% of it is done inside, except the plumbing and electrical still need some
Yeah.
tweaking here and there, but we just want to be able to move forward with this and be able to close it and install siding and finish it up.
So is that dark
let's-
shaded?
Hang on for a second, Jim. Can we just back up for a second? So the only work on the outside you're proposing is replacing the porch that would impact the footprint in any way?
Correct. It's the same exact footprint, other than we're just going to enclose it, so it'll be part of the inside of the living quarters.
Okay, let me ask you this. Can you enclose it by putting down piers instead of are you putting a foundation wall, or are you putting individual piers?
Piers.
Well, if that's all you're doing, really, I don't have a problem with myself anyways, with allowing that work.
Where, so on this drawing, where is the porch? It's facing the sidewalk? Or
No,
is it
so
it's a hatched area right now? The dashed?
that's that line, whoever's marking that line, that would be the driveway side. The front is actually on the top of the page.
Okay.
Is what says proposed work area actually the proposed work area? though?
Yes, the hatch line, well, the dotted line there is the area that we're gonna be working on.
Is this close enough to the wetland to actually be in our jurisdiction?
Yes,
So,
In the buffer.
it's gotta be within our jurisdiction.
right, I believe they said I had to be 100 feet, and
Oh, okay,
so when she scaled it was like 50 feet or so.
all right.
Ken, can you zoom out a bit and see, I want to see what Butler Ave is? Okay,
Top.
okay, got it.
So anything in the back is actually the back of the property.
Yeah. And you're not doing anything to the garage that's there or anything like that, right? That's getting kind of close.
So the building department just wants us to clean it up. They're asking to look at it, not mess with it, not increase it, don't do anything else, but do a little TLC to it. So,
Yeah,
because it is in bad shape, but
Right.
we're
And
not
then
gonna, it's not, to us, it's not worth it to build a new one.
Right, and you're not changing the grading around the yard or anything, right?
Not at all, no.
Yeah, I think this is, yeah. And this, you filed for this, right? You,
I did, and that's what triggered us coming to you guys because the building commissioner, who I know very well, he said that if we were inside the house it's one thing, but because we're going outside and we're doing new piers, then we have to go in front of the board for that.
who told you that?
Benny?
Oh,
Benjamin?
Benny did, okay. The building inspector,
Yes.
okay. So we don't have a number for this or anything.
No,
right?
there's no file number yet, so we do
So he's
need.
gonna have to wait for that anyways. We should talk to Rebecca and see what, I don't know if we could, well, what's everyone think of this? I haven't really,
I mean, we could do a site walk.
yeah, maybe we should do that. Just to confirm it. Yeah, that's a good idea.
We do have more daylight now, so weekdays, are in play.
Yeah,
Would you guys like us to be there ourselves?
you could be there, yeah, if you want to.
What would be a good day?
Could we do, commissioners available next Tuesday?
Tuesday during, what, around?
I will be out of town, but
I'm not around.
Tuesday's no good then?
No.
What day, Jim? I'm sorry.
They're talking about Tuesday. but
I
it's
threw out
too-
Tuesday, but two members cannot make it. I'm not available over the weekend.
Well, what about Monday then, or any other day during the week?
Yeah, I could do, yes.
I'll be away until Wednesday afternoon and then I'll be back, so.
Okay,
What about, are you,
Well,
Bob, are you
what day
around
were
the
you
following
thinking?
weekend?
Thursday?
Thursday would be okay.
Me too.
Possibly do Thursday.
I'm
talk-
50-50 maybe.
6 o'clock?
Bob, are you around the following weekend or no?
Not likely, but it's too early to tell.
um,
Yeah, actually, you can't do 6 o'clock, Teresa, right?
Yeah, I could do closer to 6:30.
Yeah, we could do that. Still have daylight.
yeah, we could do that. That sounds-
6:30 next Thursday.
I think I can make that work.
Not this Thursday coming up, the following Thursday?
Correct.
Okay.
Does that work for you?
What day is that for? I mean, I want to get going, so yes, I'll make it work, but
Yeah, I mean, we can't do anything without a file number.
I understand. So that's the 13th.
No, it's the 20th.
No,
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
13th. 13th is correct,
Oh,
right? That
I'm
works for
already
you.
double
Yeah,
booked
sorry.
on the 13th.
I'm sorry, I heard something.
I'm already double booked on the 13th, but I'll go by a separate time.
Okay.
All right, so Thursday, the 13th at 6:30.
And
Okay.
can
For those
somebody
that can
make sure
make it.
Rebecca knows to send us a reminder.
I'll contact Rebecca and tell her.
All right, so we will see you a week from Thursday at 6:30 to do a site walk.
Perfect.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, so 6:30.
All right, again, I will mention it, that DEP 313622, 10 Broadway has postponed per the applicant's request until May 2nd. We do have a few minutes for other business. 107 Audubon Road. There was 2 dead trees. We were sent the pictures and a letter. I don't know if everybody had a chance to take a look at that.
Yeah, I saw the pictures.
Yeah. Trees are definitely dead. The only question is whether there'll be snags or not.
Right. Is
Bob, I can pull them
Elaine,
up if you
is
want.
Elaine on with us tonight? I don't see her.
She
No.
isn't.
No? Okay. Yeah, so anyways, there we go. And scrolling down. Look like they're pretty close to the edge of the pavement.
But if there's 6-foot snag, it should be fine. Looks like a good location for it.
Yeah, just want to make sure there's enough clearance between that and the
Parking area.
parking lot. So I think Elaine is going to take a look at those.
Yeah, what, I mean, it's obvious.
Actually,
though.
she already did. She already confirmed. Looking at a note from Rebecca.
Yeah, she did already.
Yeah. All right, so would somebody like to make a motion to approve the removal to snag height, if possible, of these 2 trees?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Haley,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes,
Ken,
Yes,
Paul,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. All right, so how is this left with Elaine or Rebecca? We're going to talk to the landlord and see if they can leave a snag.
I believe Rebecca's already told them that in communication, that that would be our preference. So it's a question of whether there's, as you pointed out, Bob, whether there's a safety concern or not.
Right. Okay. All right, so we need to confirm that at what height can a snag be left, if at all. We can have a letter issued after Elaine confirms, what type of snag could be left. All right, let's see, we have other business. Quantified Parkway, GP 313608, 200 to 400 Quantified Parkway. That's on the agenda. Notes say will not be attending. Final plans have been submitted to the building department for a building permit. There are very few minor changes. We did get an email last week from Rebecca showing those minor changes. She definitely agreed that they were minor and did cover those with us. Is she looking for any action from us to consider these minor?
I don't know.
She isn't. It was more just a courtesy,
Okay,
just
Thank
to
you.
show. They
Thank you.
wanted to be sure that they brought every change to you. Just they erred on the side of caution.
all right, thank you. All right, Judy, do you have any other business?
I think I told you we had one applicant for the trail stewards. We've had 5 emails of interest, but 1 applicant. So I'm hoping that more people will submit applications before your next meeting, because that's when they'll be appointed on the 18th.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and the title examiner, the contract was signed,
Oh,
so that
excellent,
work is beginning.
excellent.
Yeah, so that's gonna be huge. I mean, I don't think it'll be a quick process, but at least it's starting.
It's moving.
Yep.
All right, anything else, Judy?
No, I don't think so.
Anybody else have anything for other business?
Can I just ask, Rebecca was gonna send around a rotation for checking the Concom email. Did you get that?
I sent all that information to everybody last weekend.
Yeah, you said
Oh,
these
sorry.
had to get on, but it didn't include who's monitoring
Who's
the
doing it when?
schedule.
Oh,
Yeah,
Rebecca
Um,
was working on it today. I don't know that she had a chance to finish it.
okay.
I'll
Yeah,
remind
All
her.
right.
She's working remotely tomorrow, so I'll remind her.
has
Thank you, Judy.
anybody tried to access it?
Yeah, I got in without a problem.
Okay, good.
I mean, the username password you gave us works well.
Okay. All right, that's good news.
Well, we ought to have you started off then, since you got on.
I can do it for April. I will be away late May into June, so probably be better.
All right, we
So
still
I'll
have,
check in with you tomorrow about criteria for what to do with them.
sure.
I'll drop you a
Yeah.
note.
Yeah, most of them already have Rebecca copied.
Right, I noticed that virtually everything that was there had already
Yeah.
been gone to her as well. So I assume we just note those and continue.
Yeah, and I have forwarded a few of those, to some of the other members that may have had like an email error, with the address.
Okay.
I did save down the email addresses of the commissioners, so it'll be easy to forward information if need be.
Did we need to look at
We did
those?
have another open space plan committee meeting.
Okay,
So the survey was sent around for some changes. It's a pretty brief survey. And it's focused mainly on the area, the parcels that are under the care and custody of the commission. So I think it's a good way to approach it. And I think I said before, there'll be, the survey will be at town hall, the library,
I'm gonna shut it off.
the senior center. And it will be in the Council on Aging's May newsletter. So we're trying to get, I was talking to Rebecca today about what we want to have in terms of putting it on the town website. So we can coordinate something with Jen McDonald, the communications director. And how, just some ideas that we could have for advertising, getting some excitement around it and hopefully getting plenty of people involved. So things are moving along pretty well. And the forum is on the 27th. I get an invite for that as well.
how will that survey be forwarded again, Judy? I missed it. There was somebody had cut in.
The survey is going to be online.
Okay. And people will know about the survey, how?
It will be on the website. It will probably be in the item. They're going to advertise at the rec center, the library, town hall. There'll be a posting, the senior center. the Civic Center. So we were trying to think of any way to try to capture people. You know, a lot of times if there are events in town, there could be some kind of table, but it's the time of year, there's not really a lot going on where we could do that kind of outreach. And the youth council, I think, is going to help. So that will get the word out as well.
Okay,
So if you have any ideas, let me know. But I think so far, it looks good.
thank you. Anything else, Judy?
Nope.
All right, we do have a few minutes before we can start the next hearing. That's scheduled for 7:30. So we're just going to pause for a couple minutes until we do get to 7:30. I will ask that please ensure that you are muted. There have been a few people joining that have not been muted. It is causing difficulty hearing sometimes what people are saying. All right, I will announce again that anybody who is here for 10 Broadway, it has been postponed at the applicant's request until May 2nd. All right, I do have 7:30. So we can proceed with DEP 313620, 100 Hemlock Road. That's Northeast Metro Regional Vocational School. Public hearing continued. And we were last talking about a review of revised stormwater design and buffer zone mitigation areas. I know there was some information forwarded to us last week, and I'm thinking that David will probably want to review that with us.
We will.
Okay, take it away.
And sure, if you want, just a brief recap of where we stand. So for your last meeting, which was March 21st, the deadline for materials to be submitted, as you guys, is the Thursday before the Tuesday meeting. So we received some comments from the engineering department that Wednesday. With the short turnaround time for Thursday at noon, we weren't able to provide revised plans to address the comments. So we provided a comment letter. About half the comments we thought could be easily addressed with some minor plan changes, and then there was a number of comments that were related to one particular part of the site. About 5 comments where it's just to the west of where the proposed high school would be, and it's related to the stormwater that, and those comments were all interrelated. And so what we took from homework from that last meeting was that we were going to work on the redesign of that, submit updated plans, which is what we've been doing. Now the plans were submitted to you Thursday at noon. in time for this meeting. One of the things we just finished compiling is a stormwater report that supports the calculations for those plans. We just finished that work this afternoon. It's a 70-page plan set. It's about 1,000-page stormwater set. We prepare the plans in concert with the calculations, but just because they're going to be peer reviewed, we have to just carefully compile them all. Again, we finished that this afternoon. We'll transmit that over in the morning to the engineering department, also the conservation, just so we can take one last look at it as the ink dries on it. So for tonight, we've submitted the updated plans, and if it pleases you guys, we'll walk through the changes. And if you want, I can start by sharing my screen and start walking through the changes.
Please do.
Dave, can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
Dave, I have a bunch of notes that I made myself that little things that I think need to be addressed. And I'll whenever you think that would be a good time to tell you what they are, I can do that. If you want to do your stuff first, that's fine. I can do it at another time.
Or Jim, if as David is presenting, as he touches upon those areas, that would be a good time to bring up those comments.
Well, the comments I'm talking about are in the area of the road, of the access road from Farm Street is what I'm concerned with.
Okay, so if you want, if I don't touch on the area, so let me walk through the plan changes.
Yep.
And then maybe we can go through your comments if we don't address them, or if we didn't talk about that area, or if you didn't have the opportunity to add them. And then the only other thing I would ask is if you have them written down, if we could please, again, just get a copy of them so we can make sure we address them fully. We can't address them fully tonight. But that's appreciated. So just jump in if you need to. If it's okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Please do.
Which I'm all great at. So this is the area where there was about 5-6 questions related to how the stormwater was organized over here. This is the old plan. So this isn't the plan that we submitted Thursday, but this is just for reference. And so what you're looking at here was one large infiltration system, a small detention system, the school, the maintenance building. And if I was to zoom in, you can see this is wetland 3, and then the non-jurisdictional wetland adjacent to it, and the one outlet for the 2 systems. In the revised plans, let me just pull those up. And I can also do a side-by-side comparison if it's helpful, but just for now, let me just walk through this. So what you're looking at is a reconfigured driveway area with the deletion of the maintenance building, and the travel lane and the parking have been condensed. So what we've done here is, this is a non-jurisdictional wetland 3A, where the maintenance building used to be just to the north of it, and the access drive just to the east of it. We've pulled that in about 70 feet. That's just work. This is, just work we've pulled in and condensed, and we've eliminated about this is about, I think, a third of an acre, but almost a half an acre of kind of developed area that we're just pulling away and deleting from the project. The maintenance building, if it is built, would be down on the lower campus. So that was a really big move. That move, the project decided on last week. And so my teams worked through the weekend, very late into the night throughout this week to make the Thursday deadline for the revised plans. So publicly would like to thank them. There was a incredibly a large amount of work to do in a short time. It was kind of a big move. Some of the other below the surface moves would be how we reconfigured this system, this infiltration system, to address the groundwater comments. This system has been reorientated And it's also a thinner system. So we're able to move the bottom away from the groundwater. The system volume doesn't match the volume of the system that we had previously. So we added another element to kind of make up for that on the lower campus, which I'll get to. But these are smaller chambers with a adjacent clean stone reservoir to give us more volume adjacent to it. Now this is another one of the suggestions from the comment letter from the engineering department. Again, was to try to pull back as far as we can impacts to this wetland. So where we used to have both systems, remember there's only two systems for discharging adjacent to the maintenance building. We now have just this one system, which is picking up a limited area of stormwater, outletting in a level splitter upstream. It's about 25 feet away from the non-jurisdictional wetland. And then these two systems, when they do overflow, they're directed to an offsite area on adjacent town land. This was again a suggestion from the engineering department comments, which was basically to try to divert more flows from the site to the north. Again, in an effort to kind of mimic the patterns, even closer than we were before. All the outlets have been reconfigured as level spreaders. The travel and parking lanes reconfigured, condensed, and able to pull back. Again, we're about 60, 70 feet farther back from where we were from wetland 3A. Some other piping notes, we had comments about and concerns about, we had some of the landscape areas adjacent to the school that were being directed to the vernal pool. Get the flows to the vernal pool, we're trying to match as closely as we can to keep that healthy. The concern was the possible issue with the flow from any of the landscaped areas. So we've repiped those. So we're sending more water, that landscaped area, some of the adjacent pedestrian areas, that's going down the hill to the lower campus. And we're picking up flows from the roof, clean flows from the roof for the vernal pool to match the volume setting to that. Again, we're sending more water down to the lower campus as was suggested. One of the items, again, this system, the footprint might look similar, but it's a thinner system. So we wanted to make up with additional groundwater recharge volumes, and we accomplished that.
Before you move off that plan,
Sure.
could you zoom in on the left-hand side? I just want to see the limit of work line where the maintenance building used to be.
Maintenance building used to be, actually, let me do this for you. If it help, I think this will help. If I can do it right. Okay. So that's what was submitted on the right on Thursday, and this, I get the scales about right.
Okay,
Is what was previously proposed.
got it.
So here's the maintenance building. You can see the bays. It's like a little man door here. So here's the property line. I think you remember you weren't on the site walk, but you had asked us to investigate basically like bringing the roadway through here.
Yes.
And we were really close to the adjacent town land. We just, even at that point, deleting it, we just couldn't physically get through with enough space. So that it's a fairly large move. This I don't want to be, it's a little deceptive. It scales off a little bit from the two, but you can kind of see how we
using the wetlands as a reference point, you can definitely see the difference.
Yeah, we really pulled back. This number here is 7 feet. And then this number is 73 feet.
May I ask, what's the difference in these outlets here? I see one's like the spreader one, and what is this other one from the original?
That's just a flared end. So just a pipe end with like crushed stone at the end. So that was just a pipe discharge through a head wall in the wall. And these are level spreaders, which really just meant this to overflow and spread the water out as widely as we can.
Okay.
And then again, you really have to dive into the calcs to understand it, but these outlets for this system were all generally coming out of this one. Now we have one level spreader for a much smaller area. The subcatchment for this is kind of this parking bay. And then these other two, I'm panning up here, shed it to the north. So that's my side-by-side comparison. But it was a big move. It's some program elements that the school really needs, but they want to move this along. They want to try to address the concerns that we're hearing, and this is a way that it'll make probably life a little bit more difficult on a day-to-day basis for the school, but it's something they're happy to have us work through. So then we talked about the repiping of this. So these landscape areas are still now heading down to the campus, and this vernal pool is just being fed by roof runoff. And Paige is on the call. So Paige, have I missed anything in this area before I move down the hill?
Nope, I think that's everything. I think just highlighting that the level spreaders are intended to slow down the flow and have a less erosive effect. So that was why we changed all of the outlets to level spreaders.
And Paige is one of the folks who worked about 80 hours last week to kind of get this done. So
I hope you're gonna give her a day off or two with
it's-
pay.
Yeah, she just came back from vacation, so we owe her some vacation time after this. That's for sure. But yeah, she needs a break from all of us. She's been a good sport, but also again, just because it's a public realm, some other folks in my office, Ben Root, Winston Lee, all kind of really worked a lot to kind of get this done in time. This item down here, this change that we're looking at, this was one Rebecca brought up last week. I'm going to zoom in, and I don't have the before and after for this, but you can kind of see it a little bit on this. She asked us if we could pull back this outlet as best we can. Now we have to have an outlet at a certain elevation, just elevation wise, but we were able to bring it back. And I think this, we were able to bring, you can kind of as a guide, this was like the limit of work before maybe the tree line. I think we were outletting pretty close to the wetland, and we were able, I think, bring it back like 17 to 20 feet. And we investigated other ways of doing it, but this was we're at the spot where we could get it the farthest back. We looked at trying to tie into an existing pipe, things like that. Again, I mentioned before, the system up above that we had to install for infiltration has a thinner cross section, so we were looking to make up volume down wherever we could. Again, it's a site's very rocky, so we have limited places where we can do that. This was actually Ben Root's from my office idea, which we thought was a good one, and we implemented, is these lower parking lots are all built in fill, or will be built in fill. And this one is this system here we were already showing, and what we're showing here is basically making this parking area porous pavement. Just above this detail was added to your plans, but we just pulled it here just to make it easier to reference just for the meeting. So we're we're pivoting use of sand on the site anyway, so it really was not change for any of this maintenance. And before anyone asks, this is about the only place on the site where we can do it, where we have enough separation. These sections end up being fairly thick, and then they have to be over the groundwater above that. So this is 8, 16, 9. So it ends up being about a 3-foot section minimum just to get your bores paid in it. And I've used this in a number of applications. It's something I was first very doubtful of, but we've used it a good amount. There's a lot of studies on it. You get treatment running through it, good separation, and plus obviously reduces rates leaving the site, provides you groundwater recharge. Another question that Rebecca had last week, and we looked to investigate, and this actually was brought up by the engineering department as well. And again, I don't have the before and after this, but I can walk you through the changes. This hillside, we're picking up clean water from this hillside, and we want to get that water into the wetlands, not mix it with the other water, just basically kind of collect it and get it there, keeping it outside of like any of the pavements, things like that. It seemed like a good opportunity just to get the water where it wanted to go, where it was nice and where it was treated. I think before we were showing this dry well probably about in this location, and so the question was, would we have to blast to get this in to make this work? What we did is we pulled out the old plans from the construction of the school, and this area where we're now showing it is shown to be full fill. So this area can be excavated, so this mini dry well can be installed. Again, the mini dry well is really just meant to be an overflow. From most storms, there won't be any overflow. It will just direct the water into the subgrade. But on much larger storms, you might see some flow out of it as it picks up the water and sends it down. And that is Paige, I believe, the changes we kind of wanted to walk you through on the plan for now. Before we kind of leave this piece, we just notice an agenda plan set. That's the full. We have some other stuff if you have some questions, just to put some of these changes in better context. But just kind of to maybe wrap up my soliloquy, we understand that without the stormwater report, and even probably if we had submitted the stormwater report at noon on Thursday, it's 1,000 pages long. It wasn't really realistic to think your engineering department could, in 2 business days time, fully vet that and review it. But we're confident with the changes we've made. We're confident with the engineering we have behind this, that we're looking to actually move this along at this point. Maybe, or just begin this discussion of moving this along. We understand it's a large project. We understand at a certain level, people would like us just to disappear, but there needs to be a new school up here, and we've worked very hard to address everyone's concerns. Since we first started meeting back in October, we submitted in September, and just as a kind of a brief recap, because I was just kind of, I guess, reminiscing. Some of the changes we've made over that time, 6 months, 7 months now, is our original plan, we came in, we had a driveway that the commission just didn't feel wasn't acceptable. We put a lot of effort into relocating that driveway. We had wetlands fillings in that initial submission. With the relocated driveway, we were able to eliminate those. We spent a good amount of time out in the field trying to get a good geometry on the proposed driveway. It's a much more expensive option for the school because of the ledge removal that's involved in it, but I think it meets the needs of the commission better. Along that time, we studied all kinds of alternative configurations for that driveway. Some we even validated like the width of the driveway, and you know, we have a sidewalk on it now, to address concerns from other boards that we've heard. We spent a good deal of our time on site lighting. We have site lighting that was carefully designed, carefully considered. We're shielding it from abutters. We're shielding it from the wetlands. The light color is the appropriate color for the wildlife in this area. We've gone and we've talked to experts about it. You know, I know there's been discussion about other colors that animals like. That color that was being suggested is for like sea turtles. For the fauna that we expect around here, the warmth that we're proposing, from what we understand and talking to experts and people who write those articles, is that this is the appropriate color. We've spent a good amount of time looking at additional areas that we can improve that, you know, we don't have program elements. So LEC spent a lot of time on site looking at areas where they can address invasive species. There's some on the upper campus, there's some on the lower campus. We've documented those areas. We've provided maintenance management plans for those areas, and we've provided alternate plantings for those areas to get them back to something that's more it's native, non-invasive, and provide a healthy habitat. We've you know, the wildlife. We have the wildlife culverts and the wildlife barriers that we've incorporated in the design to make sure the wildlife can, you know, that the wildlife isn't harmed by the presence of the driveway, and they can move from one side to the other as they need to. We've committed to maintaining all that. The stormwater calculations, we've had 2 peer reviewers. We feel we've addressed their comments. We've modeled it many different ways that we've been asked to look at, you know, different impacts at different points along the site. We feel we've done a lot, and we've met that bar as far as the stormwater calculation. So again, I'm also saying that when you haven't had the final report. So we've worked really hard as a project to keep land disturbances to a minimum. You know, we're using walls, we're using culverts, we're trying to keep things as tight. It's a lot of this is not going to, you know, the contractor, if they had their preference, which we did not allow, would want more space to be able to do this stuff. So we're hemming them in as much as we can. It's, you know, and still have a project that can be built. So we were looking and pulling in all the margins as best we could. You know, we committed to ongoing maintenance of the site, including, you know, probably the most aggressive snow management plan. I mean, someone can tell me differently, but in the town, I mean, we're basically doing what they do around the Cambridge Reservoir. That's going to be a forever thing for the school. They're going to have to manage the site like that. It's going to be more expensive. It's probably going to be, you know, it's not going to be as easy as it is now, but it's something they're committed to doing. Just again, something, and that's a forever thing. The removing of the maintenance building, again, that's kind of a large program element. And then it's one other thing, just I'm kind of remiss in just never mentioning it, is you know, the whole lower campus right now was built in like 1969, 70 to 1969, 1970 standards. So it collects the water from the site and just discharges it off the site. There's very little of any treatment. At the end of the day, the whole campus, not just the upper campus, but the lower campus will also have a new stormwater system that's going to meet today's standards and provide even greater protection to the wetlands than there is today. You know, so I just, you know, wanted to kind of recap, you know, where we started, what we've done, where we are today. You know, we do. I'm sure you enjoy seeing me every other Tuesday, and as much, but at a certain point, I think we need to maybe start talking about what we need to kind of move this along. And I don't think I probably addressed all of Jim's comments that he talked about before. So that's kind of probably the end of my soliloquy. Jim, I didn't know, like, you want to go over your stuff?
It's really simple stuff. It's nothing crazy. But at the intersection of Farm Street and the new access road, there's a manhole there that's been filled with all kinds of crap, right?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
I
it's a
think-
catch basin.
I think that catch basin should be dug out and find out if there's any conduit leaving it. And if so, make sure it's not heading for the wetland. Because it's in a location where it makes you kind of think that they must have done it to, you know, capture that runoff and send it into a wet area. So I think you need to verify that that's actually what it's doing. It's not gonna add any pollution to the BBW one.
Jim, is that on Farm Street though?
Well, it's right on the, I don't know if it's, I don't know exactly where it is. It
So
could
is
be
the
on the.
engineering department that should be looking at that or the
But
applicant?
it- As far as I'm concerned, though, I don't care who does the work. It's work that needs to be done, whether the town does it or whether
Agreed.
the school does it. It's something. that
Mr.
needs-
Chair, we can look at it with the engineering department. We know about it. My screen just pulled up, or I could tell you exactly where it is. But our intent was basically to remove that so that we capture whatever flows that ever used to capture and that get them into a proper treatment train.
The other thing I had was, I think you need to put maybe a Cape Cod berm or something like that along where the access road is. And maybe up towards, there's a stretch in there that has no protection. The water's gonna run across into the woods or come down the access road. So I would think that something temporary even, because you're gonna have trucks going in there, you're gonna have concrete trucks, might have a crane going through there, there's all kinds of stuff that could be going in there. And my concern is, basically my whole concern is that we don't take the water from Farm Street and put it down in wetland number 1. So that's my intent with and I don't care how you do it. I mean, I'm offering suggestions, but I'm not, whatever you thought would work and that we agree to. And then in the final analysis too, when the roads are finished, we shouldn't have water going down the access road towards the wetland. That should be able to, that might be the hardest part to grade. I'm not sure. Where that intersection is gonna be from Farm Street to the new access road. I don't want to have water running down that hill, down that area, and that's pretty flat in there anyways, isn't it?
So the new driveway obviously will be curved and we capture all that water. So I think you're speaking about the improvements out on Farm Street more?
Yeah, on the lower end of that, we're heading towards the residential homes. There's a stretch in there that has no protection.
Okay. So part of the, well, I really don't like speaking for folks who aren't here, and Bill Renault is not here, but when we were talking about the,
David, we do have Tim Wilson though. From the
okay,
engineering department.
hey, Tim, you correct, but what my understanding, and again, we're happy to talk to the engineering department about it, but when we were working through the roundabout intersection with the engineering department, we made provisions at the engineering department's direction to provide areas for treatment for that the roundabout, the roadway, things like that. So I think, maybe until the roundabout is rebuilt, we can probably do something fairly easy with engineering's approval. But I think they're probably looking, when they redo that, that's going to be a full 2023 design.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. When we had talked about it, that was our intent on how we're going to handle it.
Okay.
But we can certainly, if there's an idea of how we want to handle it temporarily, we can definitely look at that.
Yeah, because I do believe there'll be a lot of heavy trucks going in there, and I don't know what's going to really hold up well. I know you're gonna have you're gonna have an access pad, right? The crushed stone entrance.
Yeah, there'll be a truck pad at the end that will have to be maintained. And then, obviously there's also as part of the O&M during construction, we're even outside of this process, we'll be, cleaning the streets, we can't be tracking mud onto your town roads.
Yes, right. But at the same time, we don't want anything getting down into the, you're gonna have barriers up anyways. It shouldn't be a problem.
Right. And I know where you talk, it's actually where we walk in and out of that back wetland area. It's like the easiest place to kind of access it.
And the final one, or maybe one or two more, I want to talk about the water sampling that Doug brought up a while ago. You know, I looked through the regulations, and the regulations are very clear that we have the ability to, you know, take water samples. I can read you the sections in the regulations, but you probably know where they are anyways. But my issue is that I think we need to take a water sample in there. And I think that we need to figure out what is the maximum amount of sodium chloride that area can take and not kill all the vegetation. And I did look at the DOT information. They do have under the ACEC areas, they do have an area, a volume or solution that they think you can use, because I didn't know if, my concern was that you probably have to find the upper limit. We don't know what the upper limit is that this area can take. I mean, you just got through talking about the road and how much work went into it. I can't imagine that we want to put salt into this little wet area. It's a small area. You can't treat it like a big roadway like the DOT does. So I think that you need to monitor the sodium chloride that's going to enter this. And we need a baseline to do that. And I think that we need a sampling program that I think you should develop to tell us what we should do in case things go wrong.
So I appreciate that. We can talk to the project team. I don't have the expertise to say, oh, it wants to be 3 parts per million, you know, like that's not something I can, but what I will remind you is we, the project is willing to forego sodium chloride.
On the entire,
yeah,
project?
I know, but it's still a chloride. It's still a salt. Sodium, well, even with, you talk about magnesium chloride or something like that, weren't you?
There's a few things we've discussed.
What was it, Bob?
That there was
We've talked about a few good options.
Yeah, calcium chloride, magnesium acetate, I think was one. I'm sorry to pull that up, Jim.
And I'll tell you something else. If you do use another chemical, at least if we have a base to go by and we see that chemical leaching into the wetland, we know there's something wrong. So it doesn't necessarily have to be sodium chloride. The other chlorides are not good for the wetlands plants either.
Right, we want to avoid, we've gone over that. We definitely want to avoid anything with chloride in it.
So I hear your concern. Sorry, it just took me a second to get my camera back. Let's talk, we'll circle up with the project team to see, you know, because sampling is, you know, and I think this is where you're going with it. It needs to be something you need to understand what you're sampling, when you're sampling, what you're looking for. Yeah, establish a baseline. You know, just taking samples for taking samples doesn't do anyone any good.
Right.
So first, I have to understand if that's something, you know, that's.
Dave, when you think about it, I mean, you want to use the DOT standards, but the equipment and the expertise that they're using in plowing these highways is incredible. They're all calibrated equipment. There's stuff that you're never going to be able to do.
No, to be honest, we check with our contractor who does it now, and we said this is what we need to do. We need to do it to DOT, Mass DOT standards for these areas. The equipment needs to be calibrated. The calibrations need to be checked. The materials we're talking about, we need to be sure that that's what we're going to be getting. You know, no fooling around. Like this isn't, you know, we're selling you something. So we feel confident that the snow removal will be done to the same level as if I was, you know, working on Trapello Road in Waltham adjacent to the Cambridge Reservoir. But
But those areas they were testing within a half a mile of the road to the resource areas. They weren't getting that much flowing out. I think the thing you have to understand is that we're talking about a small wetland. And I don't think you can treat it the same as a 200-foot wide highway. Because it's a different way to treat it. You can't you can't take exactly what they're doing and apply it to this area.
So again, we'll circle with the project team to see what we can kind of, again, we have to understand if it's something the school feels like they can take on, because is it a forever thing, or are we talking like the first 5 years until we get like the
No,
formula right?
I think that if we lose the wetland, we've done nothing.
Well,
Or
Jim,
very little
Jim, we
compared
already have a commitment to use a non-chloride de-icer in sensitive areas, right?
I understand that, Bob, but I'm saying that that's one thing. Testing it and monitoring it to make sure you're not going to destroy the wetland. Even, you can put that stuff down there, but it may not be as good as even the salt. So I think somehow you need to monitor what's going on there. And I think it is a forever thing, quite honestly.
We also kind of have to understand that currently we understand now some of these flows of wetland 1 are contributed from, the town right away.
Well, that's why you need a baseline.
And, so in the future, I'm sure there'll be a more, again, the stormwater for Farm Street would be brought up to current standards, but, some of these things might be out of the as far as what gets into that wetland, it receives flows from offsite. So again, we hear your concerns. We'll look to see how best we can address them.
Okay.
I'm not blowing you off. I can't commit to that right now, and because we'd have to develop a program.
Yeah,
it
that's
has to be
exactly
something
right.
that makes sense.
That's right. And we have to know what the upper limit is that you can put in there for a pollutant. That's not going to, kill our resource. I think that's something that someone has to think about, what kind of a program it would be, and put something together for us to look at. I know you were going to do something anyway, according to your papers. You were going to keep researching that. But that's my concern.
All right.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chair, if I may just add something briefly, this is Julie Barry for the applicant, and to the extent that Dave needs a little support here. There's a snow management plan that's in place and being worked on, and it has taken into account the concerns that were raised by Mr. Heath. And in fact, I believe Mr. Heath has been consulting with Mr. Renault at the town engineering department. So we hear Mr. Luciani's concerns. We hear everyone's concerns in this regard, and every effort will be made to comply with the regulations. And we understand that this can be an issue for the town, and it's somewhat of a delicate issue because right to the side of this, in the roadway that goes through Wakefield, uses things that are much more harmful than, they use whatever Mass Highway says, but it's not necessarily something that we would even be using at the site. So this is something that can be considered and placed in an order of conditions as a condition that the snow management plan complies with the wetlands regulations to the extent necessary, that it uses the chemicals that Mass Highway has approved. And those things are per se protective of the resource area. So that has been addressed. We take it seriously. We continue to address it and continue to work with the engineering department to do what we need to do to come up with a plan that provides safety, but as well as protection for the resource area. Thank you.
Well,
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay, Julie, but that plan should be done before we close this hearing. We should have something in place to look at before. We're not going to design it after the hearing's closed.
It's not, well, respectfully, it's not a matter of designing anything. This is a matter of working with the town engineer department. They've already proposed alternative chemicals rather than salt that have been used and are used in the reservoir areas for drinking water. And sampling around a drinking water reservation is a reservoir is different from what we're doing here. What we're saying is that any condition that needs to be included for snow management plan can be included as a condition for the order of conditions. And every effort is being made to do exactly that. It will be in compliance with the Wetland Protection Act, as well as in compliance with whatever requirements MassDOT has.
So can I just interrupt? Are you saying that, are you contradicting what Dave just said, which is you would look at the sampling? That's my question.
Go, me?
No, I'm asking Julie.
I've already said we've already determined that no sampling is necessary at this
Okay,
site.
so you are contradicting what Dave just said. I just want to make sure I understood that. Okay.
I'm not contradicting Dave. He said that he wasn't sure and would need to address it with us. This is something that we thought we'd already addressed per the last meeting. So this now insistence on sampling when there's no regulatory requirement for it, we haven't seen anything in that regard. And I know, Mr. Luciani, that you say that you have regulatory sites for those. So if you'd like to email them to me, I'd like to see them.
Well, they're in the manual. You can look them up.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think there is merit in getting a baseline, at least in wetland 1, because there are, contributions coming from other locations to wetland 1. So, I mean, I think there certainly is merit to see where it's at now. So we do have a baseline. And if there's something the town can do also to minimize any impact, from Farm Street to wetland 1.
And I'll just add that whether it's necessary or not, why would we not want to have a sample to understand what the water quality is at and be able to compare it later?
We don't see any problem with the one-time baseline. The issue is the sampling program that you are now requesting, which we say is not required. So we will consult, we'll talk to the client about getting a one-time baseline sample, and that again can be made a condition of the order of conditions.
Julie, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking about a sampling program.
Right.
We're telling you.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you because Ms. Belmont was laughing. What did you say?
I said, that's not what we're talking about, a one-time sample. We're saying that you need to sample this thing to know, what are you gonna do? Wait till the plants start dying and then take a look at what the water quality is?
No, we're not proposing to do anything like that. We're proposing to comply. This commission's jurisdiction arises and its authority arises under the Wetlands Protection Act and its regulations.
And if you look at the regulations, and in the regulations, it does say that we can, changing the salt content of the water or changing the chemical composition of the water is an alteration under the Wetlands Protection Act. And it being an alteration, we have the ability to put conditions out there that protect that resource. And so I don't see why we wouldn't ask for a monitoring program.
We will review the situation and and we can talk about doing a one-time baseline, but the issue is that the project is not required to go over and above and beyond what the regulations require.
Well, that's why you're wrong. It's because we're not going above and beyond the regulations.
Okay.
We're totally within the regulations.
As I said, Mr. Luciani, the regulations are, they say what they say. If you'd like to direct me to the sites that you're referring to, I would be happy to consider them. If you want us to consider your position on this, then rather than having me comb through 500 pages of regulations, you can tell me what regulations. I believe you were prepared to tell them to Mr. Conway just now. So if you want to email me and let me know those, and we will consider your position on that. And certainly if it's something that we're obligated to do, we've been here since October, revising the plans and modifying this project in order to address this commission's comments and other comments, including from the public. And so if there's a comment that you have in that regard, then it would be helpful to know exactly what regulation it is that you're relying on so that we can determine whether it actually is applicable here. We have been cooperating with you and we're happy to continue to do this, but there's issues other than, you know, the contribution of snow melt from this project. And that's why working with the town engineer has been so critical throughout this process. And so we're prepared to implement with the town engineer whatever the best program is for protecting that wetland one. And we understand it's small and every effort has been made to protect it, and at really, frankly, some significant cost. So if there's something that can be done additional in terms of snow management plan that satisfies the commission, and as far as its authority under the regulations in addressing this project, we will gladly and happily do that.
Okay, well, we're just gonna go around circles, so I'll get you that information. And I can tell you right now that we are gonna need a monitoring program.
This is Robert Schlein. I work with Julie Barry, and I'm a colleague of hers. And frankly, I'm not sure that you're permitted to have such a program unless there actually has been an effect on the wetland. But moreover, and kind of more importantly, is such a program, in addition to being expensive, it would not do to, for example, to have annual samples, right? It would have to be after a given snowfall. This is not, honestly, while I respect the reason that you're asking for this, that unless something looks like it's gone wrong, to proactively monitor snow removal chemicals after every snowfall or every third snowfall really isn't a practical thing. And it will, in the end up costing the taxpayers more money. This is not a program that is at all typical. Thank you.
Well, again, I think you're wrong as well.
Well, we look forward to seeing your citations, and we'd be happy to provide a response. Thank you, Rob.
All right. Just to backtrack a bit to David's comments, the project certainly has made very good progress, you know, due to not only the applicant's team, but, you know, the participation from the public, our peer reviewers, in the commission. So there has been a lot of contributions by a lot of people to get to this point. There is still some work to do, but we are getting closer. We have a large stormwater report that needs to be reviewed. It has had a number of changes, and you know, our peer reviewer needs to see that and review it. Town engineer needs to get through that and also look at those changes. David, is there anything else you'd like to cover at this point?
I believe, and Paige, correct me if I'm wrong, or Kevin, or anyone, if I've left anything out. Though, you know, that was basically just a recap of, again, where we started, where we were last week, the changes we had made, which again, I hope folks appreciate. It was a lot of effort, and it was a big move on the school's part. And then again, just to begin similar discussions about, you know, possible conditions, like what, you know, like, you know, I'm not Moses. I didn't walk down the mountain with these 2 tablets, right? So what can easily be, what's a condition that we can entertain to kind of, you know, that will satisfy concerns of the commission.
Yeah, that's going to require certainly conversations between us and our peer reviewers and the town engineer to get to that point. We're not quite there yet. But again, we are heading in the right direction, and a lot of good progress has been made. I do see some hands raised. I don't know the order of them, so we'll go alphabetically. Again, reminding you to identify yourself and address for the record, and keep your comments or questions to areas that the commission has jurisdiction over. And Christine, we'll start with you.
Okay, thank you. Christine Ryu, Woodland Road in Wakefield. And I apologize if I missed this regarding the big move on the school's part. Maybe someone on the commission can explain it, but or maybe it's one of the engineers, but I wondered, what was the impetus for making the change in the parking area near wetland 3? I might have missed, Dave might have explained it. Was it to address particular comments or concerns? What was the main impetus for altering the driveway and getting rid of the maintenance building?
David, would you like to respond to that?
Sure. I mean, it's fairly quick. It's just, it was a way to pull impacts farther away from one of the smaller wetlands. It was one of the comments, maybe it wasn't even a written comment, but it was a comment we heard that, there was a lot of concern about the smaller wetlands and what can we do to kind of.
Mr. Chairman, this is Kevin, Owner's Project Manager. And
Yes,
I just
Kevin.
want to reiterate what David already said, and Julie, is that this came about as the cooperative effort that we're having with the Concom, the town engineer, and other state agencies to help move this project forward. It was seen as a positive for all, and the school administration was able to make that change and agree to it, so we did.
Thank you.
No, I just wondered if there was a particular, that sort of generally, I understand that, but that seems like it was quite a big change to make, unless it was to specifically address a comment about stormwater or particular impacts to wetlands. So I just was hoping for a little bit more clarification on that, if that was
Thank you, Mr.
available.
Chairman. This is Kevin again, and I believe I answered the question.
I'm
and David
asking the
provided
commission
the
if they
answer.
So hang on.
understand that.
So
Maybe
yes,
I'm
I mean,
asking,
so
it's a pretty significant change, so I wondered if the commission understood what the impetus for that was.
Christine, we have been asking throughout the process to anything that can be done to pull back anywhere possible or minimize impacts. All along the roadway and elsewhere on the project. So it may not have been a specific target, though early on I did bring up the issue of that maintenance building and the possibility of rerouting the road around there, and did that maintenance building need to be there? So, in a way, it looks like it's been addressed at this point now, but that building has certainly come up in the past early on in the process. So maybe it was a result, of that conversation. But again, all along, we have been asking for anything that can be done to minimize potential impacts and pull back.
Okay, can I just ask one more question?
Sure.
Okay, that was about the porous area, the new porous area that's down near the football field. And I wondered if there was a particular impetus for that, or was that just hoping to find anywhere that you can put that porous area in, and that just happened to be the one location that you could do it. That I was just wondering why that came about just recently. But
So I think David did answer that. One of the engineers had that idea over the weekend to add that in, and that was the one location that would work well in.
Correct. And I a little deeper explanation that I think I gave earlier. Did I mute myself? Was the system up, system 3, we call it, is now the cross section for system 3 is thinner. So we were looking to capture more volume elsewhere, wherever we could on campus.
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Sasha, you may have been next.
Yes, good evening. I have a question about the models now that they've changed the plan yet again. So now we have all these changes. What are they going to do to the HydroCAD model? Are they going to reevaluate the stormwater? What are the
So-
changes to the stormwater and the runoff? And now we're doing other changes to the plan. How can we understand what changes have been made and the differences? Because we have a stormwater report. We've asked numerous questions about the stormwater. We really haven't had any real evidence from the engineering department or Nietzsche Engineering. And now the model has changed again. So as a citizen who's paying for all of this, I'd like to know the differences in the model now, because that is a significant change to what they showed us last time. Can you please help with that, Commissioner? Thank you. And I'm a Melrose citizen or taxpayer. Sorry, thanks.
So I think at the beginning of the meeting, it was explained that the latest stormwater management plan had been recently, as of today, forwarded to our engineering department.
Okay,
So we have not
I'd
seen
like-
it yet.
okay, thank you, Chairman. I would like to know, as a taxpayer and as a engineer myself, when things change like that, there's a significant model change. And I'd like to know what the stormwater changes are, because I'm very concerned about June Circle. I'm very concerned about the culvert. I'm very concerned about the runoff to the other side of Farm Road. And we haven't talked about any of those risks to this project. The stormwater HydroCAD model is not sufficient for this project. And it's been a concern. We've raised the concern numerous times and it's not been addressed. So I'd like to have those items at least explained to the public on the changes that have happened and what we should understand for those model changes and the historical data that they've used from the past.
We have not seen this plan yet, so I don't know that we can answer any of those questions, and engineering has had a chance to review it. David, would you like to, you were going to say something?
Yeah, just clarification. So we recompiled the report this afternoon. You guys don't have it yet. We're going to look at it again in the morning because, again, we spent a lot of time looking at it. So we'll send it over in the morning. We're going to use the same Dropbox. I hope everyone was able to access the plans. So we'll load it up. I'll send we send the link to Rebecca and Bill. But the stormwater report reflects the updated plans. The stormwater report has everything it needs so that any of the assumptions can be verified. It's big for a reason. I mean, it's we've been working with the comments that we've received, the comments we've heard, to make the stormwater, to have the stormwater report reflect the conditions and on the plan and for the results that the town's been looking for. But probably about 10:30 tomorrow, we'll email a link over to Rebecca and Mr. Renault. But if anyone used the link that we sent out last week, it should be a Dropbox. It'll just be a new item you can download.
And we'll want BSC to also have access to that link.
Yeah, it's open. One of Rebecca's requests was basically how we deliver this information. So we had a Dropbox created, but we can put information. People can come in and grab it and not have to grab all of it. So you can go in and you can look. So we started to populate that. We populated that with the revised plans, civil plans, landscape plans, and then some of the historical documents that we provided in the past, reports from LEC. There's a bunch of stuff we have up in there.
Okay, thank you. Bronwyn, you may have been next.
I believe Allison was first.
Okay, Allison or Doug?
Yes, hi, Bob. Good evening, commission members and everybody else. This is Doug Heath, Stemman Street in Wakefield. I have two questions. The first, I would like to direct to Dave Conway. And I was wondering why the decision was made to not take any field measurements of precipitation, wetland levels, evapotranspiration, and stream flow made to better characterize pre-development peak flow rates from wetland 1 to June Circle, given its susceptibility of flooding and its and the substantial flood risks that it's had in the past.
Dave, do you have a response to that question?
We prepared the model and including the existing conditions using standard engineering practice, following the wetland regulations, following the stormwater regulations for the Commonwealth, and provided all the back we have to have the, peer reviewed, and we've adjusted those to the comments. We've done it the way it should be done for this venue.
Well, do you think it's going to be adequate given the
Yes.
Circumstances and the vulnerability to June Circle residents to flooding, especially when you're increasing the level of impermeable surfaces for this project. How is the peak flow ever going to be defined if you cannot calibrate the model to existing conditions?
I don't know if you have an answer, David, to that question or not.
Again, we model the existing conditions and we got quite a few comments on how we model the existing conditions.
Yeah, but if you don't, for instance,
I really, this isn't Murder, She Wrote or Matlock. We prepared these documents. They've been peer reviewed by 2 different peer reviewers. This is how it's done.
okay, well,
And I know we are waiting for engineering comments also. So we'll wait to see what they come up with also. I do believe you sent your email to engineering, Doug.
Yes, I submitted it this morning. I apologize for the lateness. I know they had to be submitted, I guess, the previous Thursday, be considered by Tuesday following. But if they can be looked at and studied, and any of the questions that we ask, that'd be all to the good, really improve our understanding about what's going on here. My second question is maybe to the commission, and Dave Conway mentioned that rooftop runoff from the school is going to be directed to a vernal pool. Now, my question is that legal?
So rooftop runoff is considered clean.
But don't vernal pools have to be dry periodically, be defined as vernal pools to, this pool is going to be flooded by rooftop runoff every time it rains. So it's no longer going to be really a vernal pool. That's only active during the spring months, as I understand it.
Do we know how much water is heading to there? I don't know. Do we have an answer?
So what we're looking to do is to maintain the watershed to the vernal pool, so that when it rains, that the water will go to the vernal pool. It's the school's not going to make it rain less or more. It's really just a water balance issue. It's to maintain the flows to the vernal pool as they exist today. If that means it's a wet year and the vernal pool never dries up, it would not dry up with the schools there, or if it would not dry up with this, if the school isn't there. It's to mimic the existing conditions.
Yeah, anytime it does rain, water would be going to that vernal pool now.
Right.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, sorry, Doug, I have to interrupt. How can it be existing conditions if we're now adding a building to a wetland?
Sorry, do not interrupt. Raise your hand, wait your turn to be addressed, and I will mute you if you interrupt again. So anyways, that was being answered by David, I believe.
Okay,
so
and just one third issue in response to Jim Luciani's plea for future monitoring of the wetlands. The stream standards, freshwater standards were itemized in my February memo regarding road salt impacts, from existing school. The citations are all there, and the standard for not to exceed is 230 milligrams per liter chloride. Otherwise, you're violating a state freshwater stream standards. So it's all in that memo that I submitted back in February.
Right. I think we certainly have covered that, and the potential alternatives. We have had the discussion earlier this evening. So the applicant has committed to using non-chloride, de-icers in the sensitive areas.
The critical question is, what would those alternative compounds, the calcium magnesium acetate, do to the wetlands?
Right, and that was a question that Jim.
So that's another research project that deserves answers.
Yes, correct. And Jim, Lucy, I did bring that up earlier.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, Bronwyn, I believe you're next.
Yes, thank you, Bronwyn Delavolpe, Wakefield. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, if someone could please show me, I may have missed it, I'm sorry. Where the maintenance shed got moved to specifically?
Was it removed, David, or just, it was removed completely, correct?
No, it was moved to the lower campus.
Okay.
Okay,
And-
can you show me where? I'm not just.
Yeah, and so apologize, I don't have the whole setup. It froze my screen last time. So this is the lower campus. And it got tacked on here.
Okay, and it's next to, what's that? What is it right next to, please?
This is like just another storage building. And then this is this large area here. And out is just basically like a pavement area. I don't know if people remember, we had tennis courts at one point, but those are deleted from the project. So this is where that happened, I believe, back in the fall. So this feature's been here since then. So now we've tacked on the maintenance garage down here.
Oh, okay. So this was where the tennis courts were, and where your cursor is, that's where the maintenance shed is, and then immediately adjacent to that is a building, did you say?
Yeah, and Kevin can clarify it, but this is basically a storage building or something that, or even like is this something that the students would actually be working on?
Mr. Chairman, I don't think that, Dave, I don't think you're 100% correct here. Is Carl is on, Carl, could you?
Yes, Kevin,
you
this is
please
Carl
answer?
Franceschi, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman, with DRA, if I could.
Yes, please, go ahead.
There was a larger storage building there prior to relocating the maintenance component to it. So it basically had a larger footprint previously. The storage building was reduced so that the maintenance garage, which has, overhead garage doors, could be located on that same footprint. But Dave is right. Originally, there were tennis courts conceived in that much larger paved area. But they were changed out to provide space for a storage barn.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And is the maintenance shed, now that it's been moved, is it about the same size as that it was where in its original location? Just roughly?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Great. Now, thank you. Someone mentioned wildlife lighting. Could I trouble someone, please, then to ask about the color spectrum that you've got there and the nanometers and all that great stuff?
So we did cover that a number of meetings ago. 3000 degrees, 3000 Kelvin, I think, was what we talked about.
I'm sorry, what was that, please?
Well, we've covered all this before. I don't have all the specifics before us, but we've certainly covered this and have the lighting plan.
Okay, so, but, all right, a specific question would be then, is the light temp, the Kelvin, is that somewhere in the 560 to 590 range? Can someone answer that question?
If we have Warner Larson on tonight, I'm not sure. But I think David Warner might be out sick. But we can.
Yeah, no, I do recall it. We wanted in the 3000 to 3500 Kelvin range. And I think that's what was agreed upon.
I defer to your memory.
Mr. Chairman, you said Kelvin?
Yes. 3000
okay.
3500 Kelvin. I think is, I'd have to go back to the minutes or the lighting plan, but I believe that is what we discussed and agreed upon. And that is the where we want it to be.
Okay, what, do you have nanometers in front of you?
No, I don't have any of the information in front of me. I'm just going off of memory.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. And is the lighting plan is available that I can go check?
It's part of the, so if you were to look at that Dropbox, there's two large sets of plans. One's a civil, one's a landscape.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, through you, in reply to what Mr. Schlein said, that the project is not at all typical. I do agree with him very much on that. This is not at all a typical project, and therefore we need non-typical mitigations for that. Now, I would recommend, when it comes to order of conditions, I have seen order of conditions sound like a trip to heaven when they're being presented by the proponent. And they always sound like that when they're presented by the proponent. A year or 2 or 3 down the road, at no fault of the proponents, the order of conditions get lost. New management comes in, new snow removal people, and things go awry, and the orders are no longer being followed. And that may be including treatment on the road. And I have to ask, through you, Mr. Chairman, how is monitoring of the order of conditions in perpetuity and the mechanism to keep that monitored and keep them in compliance in perpetuity? How is that going to work?
Well, the order of conditions does stay with the project, and you know, it is sometimes a difficult thing to monitor and enforce. We have seen that in other projects. So there is not a great answer to your question. Any alteration to a resource area would require a potential enforcement order and you know, need to be resolved. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
it does
you know,
not. And I would, what I'm recommending to this commission is that you find a way that monitoring all of the orders of conditions and put a mechanism in place so that the monitoring to make sure that they're being followed and that they're in compliance in perpetuity. So that's what I'm charging the commission with, because I have seen too many times. It sounds great, all this wonderful stuff, but over time it gets lost, it gets forgotten, it gets changed, and there's too much at risk here to allow that to happen. Too much at risk. And it cannot happen. And I believe it is up to this board to find a great creative way to see that. I mean, who's in charge of compliance? Who's responsible for compliance?
well, the owner of the property is responsible for compliance.
And who's watching the owner of the property? I mean, what happens if management changes? This is what I see all the time. Management changes and they know nothing about the order of conditions. So how do you change that system?
If
to
you have
ensure?
a suggestion for us, Bronwyn.
Do I have a suggestion?
Yes. Yes.
I really thought that was something that you guys could come up with. I mean, this has been going on for a long time with the order of conditions, that they sound wonderful. And if they were complied with, then they would be doing their job. But when there's no one watching, these things slip up and go by the wayside.
Yeah,
And then you've
oftentimes it's an abutter that will, you know, let the commission know of an issue or something of that nature. You know, same with homeowners, right? If something goes wrong or they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, oftentimes it's an abutter that will let the commission know. So yeah, there isn't a great vehicle to monitor every project and every condition on every project.
No, I agree with you. And therefore it is an inadequate system, particularly where, you know, life and limb and the wetlands is at stake here. So frankly, it's not good enough right now. I would like to ask too, through you, Mr. Chairman, what happens, you know, if and when June Circle does experience flooding? They've experienced flooding in the past and it is anticipated. So who's responsible for that if and when that happens?
All right, we're getting into a lot of hypothetical situations that I don't think it's appropriate to be trying to figure out solutions to these at the moment, because again, they're hypothetical situations. I would ask that the questions be directed towards what we've discussed tonight at this time.
Well, we did discuss June Circle tonight and the stormwater runoff. Oh, all right. Well, then you can let that go, but I did have one more point and then I will finish up. I do have to disagree with the vernal pool assessment. When you have additional water, whether it's from the rooftop going into a vernal pool, that does not maintain the natural environment of a vernal pool because you're adding additional water to the vernal pool. So that is not maintaining a natural vernal pool. Natural vernal pool is maintained with, natural rain. But when you're rooting additional water into the vernal pool, not okay. Thank you.
So that is something we do want to look into, and we certainly will have our peer reviewer look at that aspect that was presented and see if that is appropriate to be doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bob Brooks, I believe you were next.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bob Brooks, 7 June Circle. I'd like to ask Dave if he could bring up that first slide that he showed in the beginning that shows the area with the parking and the non-existent maintenance building, if that's all right.
As it is now.
Correct.
Yeah, after. Everyone see my screen?
Yep, I can see it. Maybe just a little bit bigger if it's possible.
Yep.
Okay, specifically, I would say the top where that stormwater drainage, storage system is, that drainage, correct, thank you. That drains right into that wetlands area that's on Wakefield property, correct?
Correct. So the adjacent town land.
Okay, Jason, yeah, let's, and so does the bottom one down there? The next one down, the small one?
The second one, we'll call it this.
Okay, okay. Because there is a lot of wetlands back there that's on Wakefield town land. And it's a close proximity to my property and my house. Reason why I bring that up is several weeks ago, I had Bill Renault and actually Tim Wilson came over and met with my neighbor at 4 June Circle, and I'm at, 5 June Circle, and I'm at 7. She gets more water than I get. We looked at the water that came from Wetlands 1, where it was backed up, actually almost cresting. And that was during that rainstorm where we got 2.5 inches of water, which wasn't a great storm, but it was substantial. Although the water didn't crest, the back of her area was flooded. I don't believe she got any in the house because she had her sump pump going. And my sump pump was going for approximately 4.5 days on and off for 4.5 days and night. Well, and that's the only thing that kept my basement dry. Now, my property line is probably 10 feet higher than hers. So I wouldn't really anticipate getting that much water from Wetlands 1, but it has to come from somewhere. Now, John, who lives there at 5 June Circle, has lived there all his life, went to Northeast Vocational School, graduated from there. And he told me that when my house was built, it was one of the last ones built on the street, and it was built on a lot of ledge and rock. And my understanding is because I get so much water, it's because of my elevation change is probably 20 to 30 feet difference from the back of that area where the parking area is. So it's coming down through that area and it's going through the rocks and the ledge. And that's the path that I seem to get the majority of my water. Now, if you're going to be dumping more water into that area, is there a way, or maybe the town engineer can channel it off so it doesn't end up with, instead of a small wetlands out there, it doesn't turn into a large wetlands and it, increases more water to my basement. Now, both town engineers, Bill and Tim, were out there, so they saw the area which I'm discussing. And Bill said his protection is to make sure my house doesn't flood. But if that water is gonna be draining behind there, and that's basically where the water's coming from, because as everybody knows, water runs downhill, and I'm downhill from that area. Although it's approximately 400 feet, we calculated at the last time, I'm gonna be getting an excessive amount of more water. So how can that be mitigated?
So
I don't really expect an answer tonight,
Yeah.
but it's a real concern to me that it's just going to increase the flow in the back area, even though it's going on town property. In that area back there where the wetlands end, it trickles down and it trickles down and it gets to Stoneway. And then there's a path down there where it gets down to Rivers Lane. It goes through a 36-inch wide drainage, which gets down to the wetlands, another culvert, and it drains where the baseball field is in the wetlands down there at the base of Farm Street.
So we know that Bill's not with us here tonight, but Tim is with us. And I don't know what was said at that meeting, but maybe Tim can just kind of shed some light on the thoughts that Bob has brought up.
Yeah, sure. So when we had talked to Bob, we said, I don't believe we said we would ensure that no flooding would happen. We said we would ensure that there'd be no more water going there than currently goes there.
Yeah.
Which is slightly different. Just I want to make sure that we're clear on that one.
Yeah.
In that basically when they changed the plan, or when they did this plan originally, the existing conditions have a lot of water flowing down that hill currently to behind your house. When they did their original plans, they redirected a lot of that water towards wetland 1. This plan, as it's shown now, is just increasing. It's not increasing the total water you're getting there. It's just changing it from the last proposed plan. We'll still confirm when we look at the stormwater, report, which we haven't had a chance yet. We'll confirm that there's no additional volume or peak flow going to that location.
How would you calculate that? Is there a base to work with?
Yeah, I mean, it's all in the stormwater report, the same as you'd calculate it for any other site, that you take what you have for, I can't get into the whole entire thing of how we calculate, stormwater runoff and HydroCAD and how that all works. But certainly we can take a look based on what we know of the elevations and the grading around there and compare the existing conditions to the post conditions.
No, I understand that. I would calculate it a simple way. If I got 2.5 inches of rain and my pump ran for 4.5 days constantly on and off, and then all of a sudden we get more water coming behind us when it's not raining, or runoff or whatever it may be, and my pump starts running for 7 to 10 days, to me, it's an easy calculation. I'm getting more water from somewhere.
Mr. Chair, if I may, this is Julie Barry. What I'd like to point out, and I don't think anybody is prepared to answer these kind of specific questions, particularly since the town engineer hasn't had a chance to review the revised plan yet. But I think what this is showing is that the town engineer is aware of this, as is the applicant, and they are both working to make whatever changes they need to the stormwater management plan, so that, as Mr. Wilson said, there's no more water going there than there is now. So this is something that is being addressed by the engineer and the applicant. And so when the engineers had, and Mr. Wilson said, they've been out to the site, they've looked at the property. So I think that this is a discussion that is more appropriately made after the engineering department has had the opportunity to review the calculations and the revised plans.
Yeah, I understand that, Ms. Barry, that I only found out about this tonight. That's why I asked the question. And I did say I don't expect an answer tonight, but I like to make sure it stays on the radar.
Yeah, yeah, point noted, Bob, definitely, definitely.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you. Let's see, I do see somebody with the initials KJ with their hand raised. Please identify yourself, name and address for the record.
I'm Karen Johnson from Malden.
Yes, Karen.
I just want to say that for people complaining about the monitoring, testing and monitoring of the wetlands and the pools, this project, there isn't a 1,000-foot buffer. There's not even a 100-foot buffer for wetlands and pools. There's a 0 to 25-foot buffer. So yes, everything is going to impact and probably cause a failure to protect the wetlands. And that's all I want to say. The buffer is too little, and I don't know how you're going to prevent the damage. But monitoring would seem to be important. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll take one last question. Sasha, I do see a hand raised. I don't know if it's been raised or all along.
I do have one more question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, please go ahead.
For the town engineer, Mr. Ronald, is the model calibrated or uncalibrated when you're doing the stormwater assessment? Can you please answer that question?
So Bill Renault's not with us tonight, but Tim Wilson is with us from the
Oh,
town
I'm
engineering
sorry.
department.
Thank you.
And Tim, I don't know if you can answer that question or not.
What I can say on that is that, the model is created using all of the local, that being town.
No,
and
it's a
state
question. I'm
regulations.
sorry. It's a yes or no question, sir. I don't know your name again. I'm sorry. I have.
Tim Wilson, what was your exact question again, Sasha?
I would like to know if the stormwater assessment is calibrated or uncalibrated. I'd like to know how they're doing their stormwater assessment. Is it calibrated or uncalibrated? Especially with this change, I'm curious if using it with a calibrated model or an uncalibrated model. It's a yes or no question.
Well, the question is it calibrated or uncalibrated? So
That's right.
not a yes or no. It's.
I'm
Tim, can you
sorry.
answer
I'm
that?
sorry. Is it calibrated or you're right. Sorry.
So I haven't seen the latest, obviously I haven't seen the latest stormwater report. Typically, these things aren't calibrated for the, in the context that we see them.
So how can you say to Bob Brooks, who is a butter, that the stormwater changes are going to stay the same when you're going to be removing a forest? How is that even possible without
Well,
calibration and
Sasha,
historical reference? Excuse me,
they have-
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to know how.
They have not seen the latest stormwater report, so they cannot really comment on what that looks like. All right. Any last questions? We're going to move on to any other business we may have. All right, so thank you all for your participation. Engineering does have the latest stormwater report. They will begin reviewing that.
They'll have it in the morning.
Yeah, as of this morning.
No,
Tomorrow
Bob,
morning.
they don't have it yet.
Tomorrow at
Correct.
10.
We don't have it yet, but it was submitted this morning to engineering. We'll also go to our peer reviewer. So we'll pick up in 2 weeks. The next scheduled meeting is April 18th. So we'll be moving on to our next order of business. So thank you for our participation, and anybody who'd like to stay on, you're welcome to do so. If not, good night, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, as
Thank you
usual,
very much.
and the rest of the committee.
Yes, Bob. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
All right, I think we've covered all the other business that Rebecca had left on the agenda. Judy, did you have anything else?
The only thing I was gonna ask is if you want to see the draft of the open space survey. And
Yes.
some of the, okay, I'll send that.
Anything else, Judy?
Nope, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, definitely interested in seeing the draft of that.
There's a recycling event this weekend on Saturday.
Yeah, that was an
Parents
item.
told me. Okay,
Yeah, it's at the high school, correct?
yes. It's a short window. I think it's 10 to 1. But they're
Okay,
taking cardboard. There's a toy swap.
Furniture even, I believe.
dehumidifiers. Yeah, they're taking a bunch of stuff. It's all listed online.
yeah. Yeah, good opportunity to, somebody clean out some stuff if they need to.
Yes.
All right. Anything else, Judy?
No, thank you.
Okay. Anything else from the commission? All right, if not, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second. Yep.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Haley,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
and I also vote to adjourn. Good night, everybody. We'll see you a week from Thursday if you can make it at 17 Butler Ave.
Thank you,
Have a nice
Mr.
Easter.
Chairman.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Somebody
Thank
will ask,
you.
will ask,
Good night.
good night.